We are standing in the conference room of the Arlington County Sheriff. This gun behind me is the shotgun, famous shotgun that was used by a prosecutor in the early 20th century, a guy by the name of Crandal Mackey, elected in 1903 as the Commonwealth's attorney for Alexandria County. And he conducted a series of raids where he shut down brothels and saloons and all kinds of dangerous places. And he used this shotgun when he conducted those raids. Crandal Mackey was from South Carolina. His father was a very prominent judge and author in South Carolina. He moved up here to be a lawyer, and then he got involved in the politics up here in the Northern Virginia area. And what's significant about his time period is that he was part of a progressive wing of the Democratic Party at that time, which was split kind of between a more conservative faction and a more progressive faction. This was a time when there really was no Republican Party to speak of in Virginia. The only real politics had to do with which faction of the Democratic Party was sort of in charge. And so the conservative wing of the party was run by a political machine that was operated by a state senator by the name of Thomas Staples Martin. It was known as the Martin machine. So when Crandal Mackey first became interested in politics in the late 1800s, early 1900s, he got involved in this group of progressives that were trying to essentially take over the state government. And one of his first major campaigns was the gubernatorial election of 1902. He went down to the convention to support the progressive candidate at that time, whose name was Andrew Jackson Montague. And Montague was successful. And so that sort of launched Crandal Mackey's political career. When Crandal Mackey first got elected in 1903, he wanted to go after these gambling houses and the saloons and the Sunday bars, and he wanted to shut them down. But he had lots of resistance from the sheriff, who wanted nothing to do with any of this because he was aligned with the political machine. So Crandal Mackey, as a prosecutor, had to put together his own posse of supporters and conduct his own raids without really much help from the sheriff. So he sent out letters to all of his political supporters saying what he was about to do, the raid he was about to conduct, and trying to get people interested to find out if they wanted to be part of the raiding party. He got a good response. And so the elected prosecutor took this shotgun as sort of his totem out to all of these places. So the shotgun is a really interesting piece in history because it's associated with Crandal Mackey, but it's been passed down over the years through various hands. It's actually the property of the Arlington Historical Society. But then at some point it was displayed here in the Arlington County Sheriff's Office. Now the backstory on that is the Arlington Historical Society has their own museum, and you can go there and learn about the history of Arlington. But they were concerned about this gun because it is an actual weapon, and they thought it might be a liability to have a weapon in their museum. So they they loaned it technically to the sheriff here in Arlington County, and it's been in the possession of the Arlington County Sheriff ever since. Now the prosecutor, the modern day prosecutor here, who I interviewed for the book, was a little upset about this because the shotgun is associated with a prosecutor, and it's not in the prosecutor's office, it's in the sheriff's office. And more to the point, Crandal Mackey's one of his chief enemies during his time in office was the sheriff, who was aligned with the corrupt political machine. And so the modern day prosecutor, who was retiring at the time, a guy by the name of Richard Trodden, he felt like the shotgun should be in the possession of the prosecutor, not the sheriff. So I also interviewed the sheriff here in Arlington, asked her about that, and she said the shotgun is ours and we're keeping it. Today, Crandal Mackey's name has been largely forgotten. There are a couple places where you can learn about Crandal Mackey. One of them is here in the conference room where we look at the shotgun that Crandal Mackey used. There also, in Roslyn, there is Crandal Mackey Park. We're not far from it right now. That's the area that Crandal Mackey Park is in is where all of these saloons and brothels and Sunday bars used to be. Crandal Mackey would definitely like to be remembered as someone who played a critical role in creating the modern Northern Virginia. If you were to get on the metro system today and get out at the Roslyn stop, there's a huge escalator and you go up into a metropolitan area, big buildings, lots of people. It's not like the ramshackle, sort of muddy streets where you could get shot in an alley and people were afraid to go out at night. And so today you can walk around the streets of Roslyn and it's a nice, prosperous place. You're not going to fear for your life. And I think that Crandal Mackey would find that his greatest legacy.